Happy Tuesday morning, everybody. Good to have you all with us this morning. It's the OHIO podcast live press conference reaction video. If this is your first time being in here, thank you so much for clicking on the video. Make sure you smash that like button. For those in the live chat, welcome in. Good to have you with us today as we hear from head coach Ryan Day after practice number 1 of 15 this spring for Ohio State football. Very interested in this press conference. I'm going to share a few thoughts before we get started. We're watching right now for Ryan Day to take the podium at any minute. It's supposed to start at 11, which is why we're starting just a few minutes early here today. If you're listening to this after the fact or you're listening to the audio version of this, thank you for doing so. We appreciate all of you. Please consider giving us a 5-star review. But here's how we do this, okay? We tap into the audio over at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We listen to what Ryan Day has to say. We pause said audio. We react in real time. I have a nice little handy dandy notebook with me that I jot down some notes during the press conference, things I want to talk about, things that catch my attention, and if it's real big, we'll pause it and react to it right away. So that being said, good to have you with us this morning, Tyler. That being said, here is some of the rules of engagement here, okay? I've been watching these things for long enough now in my life that I know several things are going to happen. People are going to ask some big picture questions, which are always interesting because some of the individuals who are asking said questions are working on certain stories or articles or things that they want to try to get more insight into. The other type of questions happen from, hey, tell me about this player. What do you think about this guy? What do you think about this guy? As they tried to work out maybe the pecking order in the depth chart going into spring ball. Now, when that happens, sometimes Ryan Day will just give you an answer about said player, and it's kind of generic. It's hey, he's working really hard. We're very excited he's with the team. Yada yada yada. But then other times, even when asked about a position group or a different player, etc., Ryan Day will bring up a name you weren't expecting. Now, when he does that, typically it's for one of three reasons. Number one, motivation. He's trying to motivate the player. Number two, he's trying to pump the player up. Maybe the player's down, maybe the player's struggling with whatever's going on in his life, whether that be uh, uh, being homesick because he's a freshman, etc. And it's his way of showing him a little love to the player there. A little in the media. Hey, man, it's all good. The other reason why he might bring it up is just out of sheer um, uh, motivation, trying to pump the player up, and or there is another kind of like I'm going to use the media here to make a point, right? So maybe the player needs to be brought down slightly. Maybe the player's doing really well, and he's like, "We need to keep this ego in check here." So we're gonna say a few things in the media. Coaches will use the media to their advantage when talking about their roster. 100%, absolutely, it's what they do. So that being said, here's what the screen looks like for all you guys. When we go live to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, you'll see me, you'll hear Ryan Day. Like I said, we will pause in live time to give reaction, and it usually takes on a 30-minute interview press conference, it usually takes us anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to get through a 30-minute press conference doing it this way, okay? So sit down, relax if you can, take part in the chat with us. Good to see the Lunatic Fringe with us as well. I'd love to know what you guys think. I'll be reading the chat, interacting with you in the chat during the press conference. So as this thing goes on, feel free to throw questions my way or things you think I should talk about during this press conference. I got my morning drink with me too to try to keep my vocal cords nice and loose as I continue to deal with this terrible cough that I picked up when I got the flu about 2.5 weeks ago. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood, Sage, Ohio, 1864. It is a beautiful day. It's nice and warm out today. I love it. Going to be going on a nice little walk this afternoon after this press conference, and I get a few other things done. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw the post I made on Twitter or Facebook this morning about an hour and a half ago. Highly recommend you guys head on over to one of those places after this video and you read that. It's, I title it um, basically, who is the uh, Michigan man as far as those who jump in our comments. I titled it, here, I'm going to go over to Facebook so you can, well, if Facebook will work this morning. Here we go. I titled it, Meet the Rent-Free Online Michigan Fan. I think a lot of you will enjoy it, to say the least. Um, some just had to put some thoughts together on that. We are waiting for Ryan Day. Currently, supposed to get started anytime here at around 11 o'clock. He's usually about a minute or two late to these things. I've noticed if they put 11 o'clock on something, pretty good chance he'll roll in at 11:03, 11:04 maybe. Um, but it could be very interesting to hear from Ryan Day. This is the first time we've publicly heard from him and the football about the football team. Now we've seen some little media clips here and there, little videos when he was on the Cruise for Cancer. He took some time to meet with 10 TV, um, things like that. But this is the first time now that we are getting a real Ryan Day in a football setting in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, really since the end of the season. So, Wayne Lawyer 574, good to have you. Good to have you. There's Austin Ward getting in the camera view for me, of course. You guys can't see it. I've got a visual as well, but we're not able to share that. We can only share the audio with you. We don't want to get in trouble. But can I tell you why I like sharing the audio and not the video? I think we get distracted by what we see sometimes, and I really like to listen to press conferences. I will shut off the visuals and just listen to the audio because what I hear is more important to me necessarily in a press conference than what I see. It's very easy to get distracted in a press conference. All the typing, writing, media members talking to each other. So that's why I like to turn off the visuals. I just listen to the press conference. So super excited to be doing that today with all of you here today. They're sitting in the press hall right now, which I think doubles as a meeting room for the football team. Little desks for all the media members to sit at. There's a podium with an Ohio State background for Ryan Day. We're at 11:04 currently, and still no Ryan Day yet, but he is coming. Have anybody heard anything so far from the first practice? I know that the media got to watch the first hour of practice. Um, I'm very interested to go through what everybody says. There's some video out there. A lot of media members got to record the first hour of practice. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If people say to you that this is what I was able to take away, so and so was leading the drills today, means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Zilch, nada, zip, zero. Leading a drill means maybe basically one of two things. You're older or you just happen to beat the other guy and you're first in line. That's all it means at this point in this stage. Spring practice is all about reps. It's all about learning the playbook. For Ohio State, it's about learning Arthur Smith on the offensive side. What does he like? What's he trying to get accomplished to set up down the road for the offense? On the defensive side, a lot of new faces for Matt Patricia. Who will be the team leaders? Who will be the guys he can count on to replace Caleb Downs, to replace Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, to replace Caden Curry, um, K-Mac in the interior? Who are the guys who are going to step up so that the defense doesn't take a major step back in 2026? That's the defensive side of it. But the offensive side it's all new under Arthur Smith. And from everything that is being talked about, um, it sounds like Ryan Day has basically turned over the Ohio State offense to him. He is the quote unquote head coach of the offense. That's a term Ryan Day has used on the defensive side of the ball. It's not a term he has used on the offensive side of the ball. Why? Because I think Ryan Day viewed himself as the head coach of the offense as well. Not just the head coach of the football team, but the head coach of the offense. And he had someone be the head coach of the defense, right? Jim Knowles, now Matt Patricia. This is the first time we've heard Ryan Day use that same terminology on his side of the ball when it comes to Arthur Smith. And what's that going to be like for Ryan Day to completely 100% trust the play caller on both sides of the ball? We kind of saw it, and it ended up being a national championship run in 2024, right? When Ohio State was able to go on that national championship run with Chip Kelly calling the plays on offense, Jim Knowles on defense. It wasn't a bed of roses. We still had issues, obviously. I mean, it's well documented that Jim Knowles had some major issues with Ryan Day that led to him leaving and going to Penn State for 1 year before he goes down on the Tennessee. By the way, Tennessee fans trying to tell me that their defense is going to be awesome this year is hilarious to me. You can tell they've done zero research about Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles is not going to come in and fix your defense in year number one. His defense is way too complicated for people to pick up. He doesn't teach it very well. It's got a lot of nuance to it. It's very back end heavy, and you give up yards because of that. And if you don't have erasers in the back end who can play fast and come downhill consistently, and not make mistakes, then your defense is going to suffer. We saw it last year at Penn State, and we've seen it. We saw it at Ohio State in year one. We saw it at Oklahoma State in year one. We saw it at Duke in year 1 and 2 when he was there. To think he's going to roll into Knoxville, Tennessee, and that all of a sudden the Volunteers defense is going to be a top 10 defense in year number one is asinine to think. But yet they want to argue with me about it, that Jim Knowles is just going to fix it all. That's not going to happen. Just not going to happen. All right, let's get to some comments as we wait for Ryan Day. Should be any minute here, hopefully. Lisa says, "Good morning, Buckeyes. Good to see you this morning, Lisa." Let's see. Who else is in this morning? Tyler. "I think it's going to be an adjustment for Ryan Day to give someone else the ability to be the head coach of the offense, Eric. I think he trusted Chip Kelly, obviously, but at the same time, I think that was the first time he truly did that. Now that he's got that year under his belt, and then he's experienced what he did last year with Brian Hartline in 2025, I think he wants to go back to that in 2020, like he had in 2024 with Chip Kelly. I think it was really important that he find a Chip Kelly-like play caller, and what I mean by that is someone who's experienced, someone who is old hat at it. Bart brought it up last night in the Super Secret Show over on Patreon, which you can be a part of if you're not. Link should be in the description below for Patreon. He said it last night. There's no reason that this offense shouldn't be quicker this year. Arthur Smith knows how to call plays. He's going to know this playbook. He's going to have it like the back of his hand. There's no reason why Ohio State shouldn't move quicker in 2026. And I agree. And if we're not, then it's a philosophical thing and it's not working. Mean Green, what's up? What's up, buddy? Good to see you in the comment section as well this morning. Good to have you with us. There she is, TG. Good to have you with us this morning as well. Lisa jumping on the Knowles discussion. They have no clue about Knowles. No way will he be great in his first year there. But I could tell he was just hoping he was going to be great just listening to the Locked On Vols. Oh gosh. I'm telling you, man. Tennessee's in for a rude awakening. And Heupel, Josh Heupel's kind of on the hot seat this year. So if it doesn't go well right away, don't be surprised if that fan base gets very irritated very quick. The first time they lose a shutout and they give up 30 plus points, that fan base is going to go ballistic. Sage, I will never join an organization that will allow a person like me to be a member. What? That doesn't make any sense, man. So you'll only join organizations that won't allow you to be a member? Is that what you're trying to say? It's the exact opposite, right? That's funny. Lisa Marie Hall, good morning from Oklahoma City. Good morning, Lisa Marie Hall. Good to have you with us this morning. Chris says Tyler sounds like a lot hater going on your part. You need to rewrite that. I have no idea what you're trying to say. Tyler sounds like, did you mean to put a comma there? Or are you calling Tyler a hater? I don't know, man. Please rewrite that, Chris. I don't know what you're trying to say. And Tyler just says, huh? Lisa says, I'm just waiting for Eric because it's going to happen. Talking about the Tennessee fans. Vols fans are going to lose their minds when their defense isn't as they thought. I know. It's crazy. I made one video about Jim Knowles about why he's not a great hire at Tennessee. And here was and they just blistered me. Oh, Sage says that was a Groucho Marx quote. Groucho Marx. There you go. I got you now, buddy. I got you. Back to Lisa's comment about Tennessee. How did we get on Tennessee this morning? I guess Jim Knowles got us there somehow. Still waiting on Ryan Day. We're at 11:13. Ryan Day's getting all his thoughts together, putting all his notes together for this press conference. So I make one video about why I believe Jim Knowles is not a good hire. Here's why. They need someone to come in to get that defense, which is athletic, just undisciplined. They were an undisciplined defense, but they were incredibly athletic. But they needed someone to give them like basic defense. You know, hey, here's what we're running. We're gonna run the 4-3-4, or we're gonna run the 4-2-5, and it's gonna be our base defense. And here's your responsibilities. A lot of one-on-one with help over the top from the safeties, some too high safety looks, right? Something simple for Tennessee's athletes where they can just go out, they don't have to think, and they just be athletes. And unfortunately, they went with the exact opposite of what they needed. They were a bad defensive football team last year. Bad. And here's the thinking of the Vols fans, right? We're going to be much better this year because we can't be any worse than we were last year. Think again. This defense can be even slower because they're trying to figure this thing out. And it could be an absolute disaster. And Heupel doesn't get a chance for an absolute disaster on defense. He has got to have that defense be better because Let's not sugarcoat it. Offensively, Tennessee is not going to be as good as they were last year. They're replacing a quarterback again. This is the fourth time in 4 years they're going with a brand new quarterback. And although he's young and athletic and he's got an opportunity to be good, starting a freshman quarterback that was not in the cards for them. So they're going to need the defense to automatically be better in order to let that offense, get up to speed. Heupel don't have that opportunity. He hired the wrong guy for this job, man. Hired the wrong guy for this job. Now, let's go back and talk about Ohio State with Jim Knowles, right? Jim Knowles came in 2022. He was the defensive coordinator in 2022, 2023, 2024. 2021, Ohio State's defense was god awful. So even though he came in and the defense got a slightly better, if you guys remember that, they were so bad in 2021 that 2022, we kind of were like, oh, well, this is better. But offensively, we were elite in 2022. Elite. We are not elite offensively, or Tennessee's not elite offensively in 2026. They are not. It's just a bad match, in my opinion. And I am very, very confident that I am going to be right when this is all said and done. That means you can make another video after the season, says Lisa. You brought it up, Eric. I did. I will. I will bring that video back up and I'll be like, where's my apologies at? Tennessee fans, try to tell you. Is Heupel on the hot seat though? I don't know who they could get that would be better. Oh, it's Tennessee. They'll try. They could have had Greg Schiano, remember? They could have had Greg Schiano, but their fan base went all like, no, he was at Penn State and went all crazy. Greg Schiano would have done better at Tennessee than what they've had. He would have. I believe that 100%. They play in the SEC too, so they are going to have lots of challenging games this year. Yeah, they got to play 9 of them now. Good point, TG. Tennessee is just repeating Penn State's mistakes. Yep. Yeah. Ask James Franklin how that went last year. He had 6 games of it, and he was gone. Very similar situation. Yes, Lisa, our defense was that bad in 2021. It was bad, which is just embarrassing to admit, right? That's just embarrassing to admit. Well, we're at 11:18. We're still waiting on Ryan Day. This is interesting. I thought for sure we would be knees deep into this press conference by now, but no dice. I guess yesterday's prediction by Vader was true. He said, Eric, it'll be 11:30. It'll be 11:30, Eric. Well, we're at 11:18. Still no Ryan Day. I should have listened to Buck Vader, but everybody was telling me 11 o'clock this morning, so that's why we started slightly before 11 o'clock, just in case he jumped in on the podium right at 11. Here's some news for you. Tyler says Johnny Walker was listed at 303 instead of 326. Wow. That's some hard work he's put in since he's gotten here, right? Dropping down a little bit, getting a little quicker. They want him to be a little quicker off the line. Plus, a little bit less weight he's carrying is better for his knees and ankles, which for a defensive lineman is important. You can play with a bum. You can play defense with a bum wing. You can have a hurt elbow, shoulder, hand, wrist. You can't have bum wheels and play good defensively. So that's good that he's dropped that weight. I like that. I like that. Troy's on the Chris Wilds train again. It's time to fire him. He's late. Yeah. how long do you okay. If Ohio State loses a game in 2026, will Chris want to fire Ryan Day? That's that's the question today. If we go down to Austin, Texas, and we lose by a couple points, will that Sunday Chris be ready to fire Ryan Day? That's the question. Lisa, yeah, I heard the same thing, 11. But here we are. Here we are. Gosh, I love Chris's his grouchiness. It warms my heart when he's yeah, Sage says, yeah, we won't have to wait to the end of the game. It'll be at halftime. They'll be ready to fire him. Yeah. It's like he carries around a I'm angry button all the time when it comes to his fandom, and he's just ready to just push it at any second. Whenever something isn't perfect, he's pushing the I'm angry button at his fandom. It cracks me up. You were a hater in the chat this morning, huh? Let's go back up and try to find where you were a hater at. Was it this comment? Was it that comment? Maybe it was this one, Tyler. Maybe this was the comment that triggered somebody. Nope, not that one. Was it this one? Oh, I bet it was this one. It had to be hit the like button, guys. You're just being an Ohio State hater if you hit that like button. Yeah. Maybe it was you saying good morning to Vader. I don't know. You also told Wayne good morning as well. I found it. There it is. You made the comment about someone in the media, and they didn't like it. Just being a hater. Maybe it was this one. Maybe if it wasn't that one, it was this one. I think it's going to be an adjustment for Ryan Day to give someone else the ability to be head coach of the offense. How's that being a hater? How's that being a hater, buddy? I don't know. It just is apparently, right? Oh shoot, man! I thought by now we would have them going here. Let's do this. Let's call it audible. I know exactly what to do. We're going to read for everybody this morning. Oh, are we getting ready? Yes, we are. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Guys, thanks for coming to spring practice press conference number 1. Again, we're going to keep it to one question, and we'll start in the front row with Dave Biddle. Dave, go ahead.
Ryan, with all the disclaimers, first day of spring, how do you envision Legend Bay's role this year?
We'll have to see. Just day one out there. He's starting at running back. You know, he played quarterback in high school, so he has a tremendous skill set, and he's dynamic when the ball's in his hands. You know, we see him as somebody that could play running back and also move out to wide receiver. Sort of like, you know, I wasn't here with Curtis Samuel, but I watched a lot of film when he was here. He kind of reminds me of that style of player. Remember when Xavier Johnson was here, you know, he could play running back or move out to wide receiver. I think we're trying to get a feel for that now because really he played a lot of quarterback in high school. So we're trying to see what best fits him when he gets moving. So today was just a start. You can see him flash, but he's got a lot of football to learn. But it was good to get these guys out here, 51 new faces. So we got a lot of film to watch and get to work on.
Right behind him, Doug Lamreese.
Ryan, looking a little more big picture here because we haven't talked to you in a while. As you look back, your defense was so good last year. Led the nation in fewest points per game. Didn't create as many turnovers, didn't have as many tackles for loss or sacks or that kind of thing. As you would just evaluated the defense from last year, did you think like, yes, that's how we want to play defense? Or is there any part of, you know what, we'd like to create maybe a little more havoc defensively?
We spent a lot of time on ball disruption and creating turnovers. I think we would all say we'd like to create more turnovers. It's something that, you know, Matt and our whole defensive staff believes in. And so, you know, there's always a give and take when it comes to like how aggressive you want to get to sort of force the action. But there's also just the idea of punching at the ball and creating PBUs, tip balls, sacking the quarterback, those types of things. So all that comes into play and all part of the discussion. I think with this group, because we have lost some pieces from the defense, we'll have to look to see if our percentages change on how much we pressure or not pressure. But then you also put yourself at risk of explosive plays the more you aggressive you get. So there's a give and take. But I can tell you there's a huge emphasis to create turnovers like there is every year. And we jumped on it today, and we'll continue to do that.
And right next to him, Bill Lance.
Ryan, on the offensive line, how much shuffling maybe do you anticipate in the spring to try to figure out where guys can play? Like, can Phil potentially play guard? Can Ian play guard? Might Austin move between tackle and guard? Like, what do you think that would look like?
Yeah, we're trying to get as many reps as we can. Right now, I think there was over 110 guys on the field today. And when you're doing that, that's typically like a preseason practice. So there's going to be times where we want to get a couple fields going and get as many reps as we can. When that's the case, then we can move some guys and interchangeable pieces, which is something philosophically we felt was always important to be able to do that. You see Josh Padilla can play guard or center. You've seen Carson play multiple positions. But it's something that we want to see if we can get the best 5 out there. But then 6, 7, and 8 typically have some versatility in there. So, yeah, we want to get Ian, some guard work and some tackle work. Austin will mostly be a tackle, although we've seen him play guard before. Gabe will mostly be a guard. Josh will play some center and some guard. He's probably going to be limited for a decent amount of the spring, but it's a good opportunity to get some young guys in there, get Carter going. We got a lot of guys in there that are going to be fighting for reps, but there'll be enough to go around. And yeah, we're going to try to find the right 5 that gives us the best chance to win, and then build depth off of that. So to answer your question, there'll be a lot of interchanging of guys, especially there'll be opportunity. We didn't do it today because we were inside, but we'll quickly go outside and start to get some 2 fields going to get as many reps as we can to evaluate what we have coming out of the spring.
Excellent answer there. I don't know if you guys caught that. He asked about the offensive line. He did not bring up any specific names. The first name mentioned, is anybody in the chat? Anybody in the chat, did you catch who the first name on the offensive line was that he mentioned? The very first one. Joshua Padilla. That was the first name he mentioned. I will not be shocked if Padilla is your starting center and Carson Hinsman gets kicked out the guard. He brought up Gabe. Gabe Van Sickle is your guard. He's not moving. He also brought up Ian Moore playing both, meaning he's probably your 6th man. Because he said our job is to get the best 5 out there, and then we want 6, 7, 8 to be versatile. And then he brought up Ian Moore as being able to play both, which means that they think he's a versatile offensive lineman. If I was a betting man, I would bet right now that they're thinking Joshua Padilla could be your starting center. That kicks Carson Hinsman to guard with, and then they are going to leave the tackles the way they are. Yeah, that's what I caught, Troy. So I'm hearing Ian might be first man up if it's an injury to tackle and or guard. He might be the first man up, which is interesting. I don't know. This is again, we're going off one question off of one practice in spring, so it's kind of crazy to say this is the way it's going to be. But great job. Great question. Right off the bat, you can expect that to happen from those guys over there. They're good at their job. All right, let's get back into it.
Right now he's just tackle, but it's worth a discussion for sure.
In the back on the aisle, Cameron D. Robinson, The Athletic.
Ryan, when you look at, and kind of when you evaluated things this offseason and trying to look at what you want to do with an offense coordinator, obviously brought in Arthur, what do you like so much about having 2 NFL coordinators? And then kind of obviously Chip was that guy for you, and then you brought in Matt on defense. What do you like so much about having NFL guys?
Not only that, but former head coaches in the NFL. So when you come with that perspective, it's, we always say, like, you learn so much when when you take on a new role. And I think, the managing of their staffs on their side of the ball is critically important. You're seeing Matt do that now with some of the staff, hires and changes that we're making on his side of the ball. And then, as Arthur's starting to install some of the things that he has done in the past, there's a system in place for it. And, it's not the NFL, but, it's pretty close. The hash marks are different. The guys are a little bit different, but there's a lot of things that carry over here. So that's been good. And it's ultimately, we've talked about this many times, it allows me an opportunity to kind of step away and really dive into everything else and just be more present in the building, with the players, with the staff. Certainly with the NIL stuff in terms of raising money, asking questions, it's a different mindset. Now that being said, we're going to get in there in the film and figure out what are the things we've done in the past that fit what we're doing, and what are the things that moving forward we want to kind of look at and change to build an identity, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build an identity that carries throughout the entire season. And when you have somebody like Arthur who's been through it before, he's been through playoff games, he's played the long season in the NFL, you have to kind of build towards the end of the season, and that's the goal here for us. Because when you think about the way things are structured now, you've got to be building towards the end of the season. Now, next year with some of the games that we play, you got to start right from the jump on it too, and you got to play throughout the length of the season. And I think it's an opportunity for us to continue to get stronger throughout the season, get challenged in certain areas, so that when it comes time to play in December and January, we're going to be salty because we've been through the fire. And so having some experienced guys like that running the offense and defense is going to be something that we count on to pay dividends in the end.
It's the long game. When he says it's not the NFL, but it's pretty doggone close, he's talking about the postseason. You have to survive the regular season to get to the postseason. 2024 was an NFL-like year for Ryan Day and Ohio State. You get through, you survive the regular season, you get to the postseason, and then that's when you want to peak. You want to peak and be your very best at the end. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Now, he admits, listen, we have important games during the season. Let me interpret that for you. We need to win at least 10 games during the regular season to make sure that we get into the postseason. The goal for Ryan Day is get better, a little bit better every week, get 10 wins during the regular season, punch our ticket for the postseason, and let's peak at the end and play our best football in those last 4 games in the playoffs. That's the new reality. For people like Alex, who expect to go 15-0, 16-0, whatever it is, and that's what they want. That's so hard to do, and Ryan Day understands that. That's an anomaly. Well, Michigan did it. Indiana did it. Yeah, but that's not going to be the reality of college football each and every single year. It's not. And Ryan Day understands that. So he's talking about and using his NFL coaches who understand that, and Matt Patricia and Arthur Smith, to get us through the regular season, get us to the postseason, and that's when we peak. Very interesting philosophy, to say the least, but it's one that he's definitely believes in. He's adopted. He believes in that stuff, man. He's talked about this a lot. He believes in that. So there you go. A couple comments before we get back into the presser. Don says, I like what I'm hearing from Coach Day. Tyler says, what is the best way to prepare your team for an NFL schedule? Getting 2 former NFL head coaches as your coordinators. Yeah, no doubt, man. RDCB, good to see you, buddy. Before we even get to the season and see what they look like, Eric, let me ask you, would you like to see them not get a bye and play a home game the first round of the playoffs this year? Yes. It's a great question, and one we will actually attack at some point on this show. Remind me. Great job. Thank you. Good question. Sage says, I don't want any I don't want any excuses of not using the total offensive package this year every game. I think you could hold something back for Michigan, right? Just maybe a couple plays within a package or two, something like that. But yeah, let's open up the playbook, right? Let's open it up. Let's use the entire force, the entire power of that playbook, and not hold anything back early on. Good point. All right, let's get back into it.
Fourth row in the middle, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, just to follow up on that, I mean, what did you learn maybe just from last year about, working with Brian Hartline, somebody who was a first-year offensive coordinator, and how much did that kind of give you reason to want to bring in someone like Arthur who had that experience, who could be kind of that head coach of the offense?
Well, every year is a different dynamic. So whether it's the guys on the offense or the guys on the defense, and what you have, and everything comes into play. Recruiting comes into play, dynamics come into play, and so every year we try to do what we can to figure out what went on the year before or the year before that, and try to project what we need in that moment. And Arthur seemed like the right fit. The other part that was really different for us is when they changed the rule in terms of number of coaches. We now have Cortez coaching the wide receivers, but we also have Arthur as the offense coordinator. So it's it's a +1 there, and that was a change. And so that's a little bit more like an NFL operation, just in terms of how we structured that. And I got to give Ross and the board credit for allowing us to do that, because that was a whole nother position, and knowing how important that is. And we spent a lot of time talking about development here and how we develop our guys. So if I'm a recruit and I come in and I have Matt Patricia on offense and Arthur Smith Arthur on offense and Matt on defense, I know I'm going to get, coached like an NFL team, like an NFL organization. And if you come and watch practice like a lot of recruits did today, or you guys got a chance to see some of that's an NFL practice right there. So that, guys know that they're going to have an opportunity to develop and be ready to step into these roles. And that's a big part of recruiting nowadays, because it has changed. NIL is a big part of recruiting, but still these guys want to get developed. And for guys who want to look at the long-term goals and where they want to be in 5 to 10 to 20 years down the road, I think it gives us an edge because of our history, what we've done, and the type of people that's in the building. So all of that comes into play when making these hires.
Third row, Spencer Homer.
Dan Hope from 11 Warriors asked the question about Brian Hartline, and Ryan Day just gave him an answer about Arthur Smith. AKA, I'm not answering your question. I am not going to say anything that you're going to write about that's going to be bad about Brian Hartline. So I'm not answering your question. Although he did say, when asked about Brian Hartline, he did admit to you guys something. If you caught it, he said, I wrote it down, quote, recruiting comes into play. Why was Brian Hartline the offensive coordinator last year in 2025? They had to keep him here because of his recruiting. There you go. But now with the +1 that he brought up, I can go out and get Arthur Smith, and I can go hire Cortez Hankton, and I feel like I'm in a better spot today than I was a year ago at this time. But I kind of felt like I had to keep Brian Hartline and promote him so that we didn't lose his recruiting. That was reading between the lines there with Ryan Day. Funny. What can you tell us about what you learned with Brian Hartline? Yes, I'd love to talk to you about how recruiting comes into play, but I'm glad to have Arthur Smith here. It's a +1, and I'd be like, just anyways, here we go.
Yeah, Ryan, as you were talking to Matt throughout the offseason and the different options that he had in front of him, what were those conversations like, and how big of a relief was it when he said, yeah, I'm coming back? But then also, like, he's been here for a year now. How have you seen him maybe settle in? Obviously, he was pretty comfortable with it last year, but settling into the college game and another offseason with him.
Well, when you get around Matt, you quickly learned how important family is to him and relationships are to him. You guys have seen that. And to see his personality come out, to see the side of Matt that we all know has been excellent, and with the staff, with the players. But Ohio State's a great place to be. The city of Columbus is tremendous. It's a great place to have a family. He has a young family, and his family, loves it here. The community has embraced them, which was important. And so everyone's at different points of their careers. But when you have a young family, like that matters. You take all things into consideration. You think about, the way that things are set up on campus medically, and just the healthcare. When all the different things that come in with being at Ohio State, you get a chance to coach some of the best players in the country. You get to be around a program that right now has great people in it. And you start to add all these things up. I think he would tell you it's a great place to go to work every day. Does he have options? Yes. Did he have options? Yes. But, I think he found a lot of joy in making an impact on these guys' lives at a different point in their lives than what he was used to in the NFL. And so, we were able to work something out to keep him here, and we knew that was important. The guys, really enjoy getting, working with him and learning from him. And then the other part of it is his impact on the staff and some of the younger coaches that are in that room, so that we can continue to build that room and build the strength of the coaching staff on that side of the ball.
Front row, Austin Ward.
Ryan, you've still not had an opportunity to have a second-year starting quarterback a ton throughout your career. Yeah. So obviously that's a benefit, but what is the mission for Julian, or what has it been going into the start of spring camp?
Yeah, so really it was Justin and it was CJ, and now Julian's the only other one, that I've had, again, going back a long way. So, the one thing that, Arthur, the minute he spent some time with Julian, he just, he's really intelligent. He can process a lot of high levels of information. And I think we've shared that before. It's one of the things that jumps out about Jules to me. And so, there's certain areas that now he's got to take the next step. Like we say, level up. I was talking to actually Matt about this the other day. He was explaining how, growing up, we used to have Mario Brothers, and, there was like, you would go through all the different levels, and if you lost, you started back in level 1, and you had to figure out and solve what the problem was to get to the next level. Now, with the video games, you have to level up. You don't really go back to start. We just continue to level up. Well, it's kind of so I tried to hit that with these guys the other day. Like, we all have to level up with our football IQ. So whether it's someone like Aaron Rodgers who's been in the league for decades, or it's, Tavian St. Clair who's in year 2 of the program, or anybody within the program, they have to level up in terms of their football IQ. And the more information you have, the slower the game goes. And so that's a big thing for him, and finding the right things that we can do to help get us into the right play and all the things that come with that. And the other part, as we know, is, just in terms of understanding where the ball comes out, his strength, and as we all know, is that the ball comes out accurately in throwing the football, but making an impact with his legs when appropriate. We know that that's the X factor that has to show up this year, and he's aware of that and been working hard in the offseason.
Front row, Rob Aller.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Oh boy, did you all just catch that? The X factor. What was it? Using his legs. That is the X factor. All that is music to my ears. That is, oh gosh, that's music to my ears. Thank you. If we hear nothing else in this press conference worth anything, hearing Ryan Day say, using your legs, talking about Julian Saint, by the way, he called him Jules. They're on a nickname basis with each other. Using his legs is the X factor. And he says this following his little spiel about leveling up. Quote, "We all have to level up with our football IQ. The more information you have, the slower the game goes." And then he says this right before, the X factor for Julian Saint is using his legs. Oh, music to my ears.
Not necessarily a concern, but where are you curious in terms of position groups? What do you have your eye on, or individuals within those groups?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because with 51 new guys, there's a lot of guys to look at and figure out what we have. But the thing that we really tried hard to do was, although it's 51 new guys, there's a lot of experience. So when you talk about Earl Little and James Smith and Quay Russo and these guys have, John Walker, they played football before. So experience-wise, we're actually okay. It's just new within Ohio State, and everything's a little bit different when you come to Ohio State. They'll all tell you that. But yeah, so quickly going through the positions, running back right now, we're missing Isaiah and Bo. So, Jacoby is somebody who's played a little bit of football, but not a ton. You have Turbo, Favor, and Legend. That's a young group right there. So they got to really step up. The first day was a little rough, so we got work to do there. Tight ends is an interesting position because we have Mason and Hunter coming in. Bennett will be out for the spring, and so Nate's really going to have to step up. Max LeBlanc has had a really good offseason. Looking to see how that group can continue to grow and build. Nick's a young guy that has done a nice job in the weight room so far, but it's hard to play as a young tight end. So whether it's 11, 12, we'll have to see and see what we can handle there. At wideout, we're as deep as we've been in a while there. Interesting group because, obviously Jeremiah leads the way, but Brandon's right there with them. And then you have Kyle and Devin, who both come in, had really good practices today, just for day one, seeing a couple of veteran guys go out there and make plays, know exactly what they're doing. Pros already, you can just see it. Now we'll see when the pads come on what that looks like. We also have, some other guys pushing in those areas, like Phil Bell and Dez, but then you have the young guys, and they're coming too. So it's fun to watch them. They flashed. They didn't quite know what they were doing all day today, but they were working at it. And Chris hit a big post. Quay hit an over. Brock had a couple nice plays. I mean, all those guys have bright futures here. All three of them in different ways. So it's a deep group. Offensive line is as deep as we've been, just in terms of being able to put guys on the field. Defensive line, there's a lot of new faces in there, whether it's guys who are in the program who haven't played a lot of football or new guys that are transfer guys that come in. So to be determined there. In the back end, deep, certainly missing Caleb and missing IGB is going to be, missing Lorenzo is going to be a big loss. But seeing Terry in there, seeing Earl come in there, Leroy's had a great offseason. Jalen's really done well. Then you have some really good young guys coming up too with Blaine and some of them. Corner, same thing, deeper than we've been. And then at linebacker, having Christian there as a veteran guy with Peyton. Riley will be out for the spring, but TJ has really had a chance to step up. Sincere. Garrett Stover's had a good offseason. So I guess it's a combination of seeing what the new transfers are like within our program, but also seeing some of those younger guys have to step up.
Is there
Go ahead. Is there one group?
is there one?
No.
Okay.
No. Maybe in about 5 practices after seeing it all and evaluating it, have a better feel. But I feel like right now, most positions are in decent shape. I would say running back probably right now is my biggest concern. Yeah, I would say. So we'll have to see.
Coach, following up on that, with half the roster being new, veteran guys from the portal and everything, how big of a challenge is that? Because this is kind of uncharted water for you guys, and you got 15 practices. The season's coming, it's going to come fast. How important is it to get everybody up to speed, and is that the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I feel like we did a really nice job. Mick Marati and his staff are just, I'm not with everybody across the country. I don't get a chance to see what they do, but if they're better than what Mick does in that room, I tip my hat to him, because I can't imagine there's anybody better. What Mick does in there with his staff is tremendous. And we had a huge champions meeting yesterday, and the growth that these guys made physically was tangible. The work ethic that they showed, but then really brought everybody together. And again, with half the team being new, there's a camaraderie being built right now that's important. And true love and brotherhood is when, your brother makes a play and you're just as happy for him as if you made the play yourself. The guy that I use all the time is Travion. When Quinshon would score a touchdown, he was more happy for Quinshon than he was for his own self. And what happened, that all came back to him in the end. And if we have that same type of mentality into the season, then we'll have a chance. But so much of that happens in the weight room. But I told the guys right here, I said, you only got 14 left. You only got 15 in the spring. So these things go fast. We got to do a great job on the off days of making the corrections, but also spending time in the building and connecting with the guys on the team. Because, to your point, the connection of the team will be important, which we know in today's game is something that is different than what it's been in the past. Usually, you would, grow up with these guys in year 3 and year 4, and you've been with them for 2 and 3 and 4, sometimes 5 years. That's not really the case anymore because of the turnover we're seeing, because of the structure, everything. So it is a big challenge, but I really like this team. I like the guys. I like their energy. I like their competitiveness, their seriousness. It's a mature group, but we haven't been together very long, so we got work to do.
Front row, Joey Kaufman.
Ryan, you mentioned the no longer limits on staff sizes, so you
Yeah.
can have 12 position coaches and coordinators. You couldn't years
Yeah.
ago. It was limited to 10, but there's still limits on how many guys can actually go on the road.
Yeah.
Recruiting. How are those recruiting rules for guys going to be defined? Do some guys not have to go on the road? And
Yep, that's right. Yeah, so Arthur just right now wouldn't be somebody that's not designated to go on the road. I know that there is conversation about maybe depending on what part of the season you're in, being able to designate different people within your program. I think that's an interesting concept that I think probably will end up happening somewhere along the line. But as of right now, because of our numbers, he would be non-designated.
Is there anybody else who's not designated?
I think otherwise all the other position coaches are, so they would be part of the 10. Yeah.
Wouldn't.
Matt's on the road. Yep.
We'll go over here to Dave Holmes.
Yeah, Ryan, with a roster like this, you said 51 new, 112 out there. I mean, could you name every jersey number first?
Oh, yeah. Well, jersey number, no.
So that's what Matt, is there a
no.
rep today where you look across the field, you're like, I don't even know who that is doing that rep? I mean, does that happen on day one?
No, I know, but the jersey numbers is something that's very that gets contentious fast, you know. And so Quinn's right in the middle of that, and that's a big matrix on how we figure out who has what jersey and when they ask for it, their seniority, if they've done right by Coach Mick, if they're champions, and then people put in for jersey numbers like a year in advance. When he leaves, I'm going to be ready for that one. And then you have to figure out special teams and if there's going to be any kind of issue with two guys being on the field at once. So when you see a guy out there for the first time, like just, Riley wasn't practice today, but I saw him in 5 today, and I'm used to seeing him in 20. I'm like, who's this guy, number 5? And so anyways, yeah, you have to get used to it, but it doesn't take long to be out there. We get so many reps, you just get a feel for it.
Got time for a couple more. Joe Nugent.
Over the weekend, Ted Carter announced he decided to resign. Certainly a lot of reaction through campus. He's been around the football team. What did you think of that?
Yeah, no, we thank Ted for his support of Ohio State football for the last couple of years, and that's really my thoughts on it right now.
Go to the front row, Bill Bills.
When you lost 20 or 31 transfers, I think it was, got some veteran guys. How much was a change in philosophy? If that's the right word. You guys had a great regular season. Didn't have a lot of adversity. Probably when the playoff and postseason happened, that would kind of hit you in the head a little bit.
Yep.
How much of that was a conscious decision? Okay, we have a fixed pool of NIL, that kind of thing. Let's pay for proven production. Let's get the Terry Moores, the Earl Littles, those kind of guys. And that's a new philosophy. And is that true? And how do you mold those guys back, to get that kind of brotherhood feeling again?
No, I think it's a great question because I think every year is a little different. But a part of what you just said was, I don't think anybody realizes how many guys here over the last, 7 years have left after 3. I don't know if maybe there's a program that's had more guys leave after 3 years. Maybe someone can do some research. But, we've had a lot. And really, the guys who are all being considered like first rounders right now, I consider Sonny a 3 and done because of the reclassification. But when you look at Carnell, when you look at Caleb, when you look at K-Mac, when you look at Arvell and Sonny, those guys are really 3-year guys. So you're losing all of that experience. Now, if they were 4th and 5th year seniors, naturally, you just see some guys step into those roles. But when you lose those guys, man, it makes a big difference. And 2 years ago when you saw, Jack and JT and Tyleek and Cody and some of these guys, Lathan, come back, they were already within the program and we were veteran that way. When you see guys who are going to be seniors walk out the door, the first thing you got to do is you got to get some more veteran guys in that room, or else you're just constantly young. I felt like we were a little young this year, quite honest. And so when you go through it and you get some more senior guys in there, it's just a different approach. And we felt like we needed that. So I think when you look at the guys who actually left and the guys that came in, I think there's a significant matrix out there, or some sort of analytic that shows, in terms of how our number of games played and age gap went up maybe a year and a half or 2 years. And that was by design, for sure, because we felt like when those guys were walking out the door, we better replace them with some more veteran guys. Now, that being said, they have to be the right guys, and they have to fit what we do and believe in our culture. So all those things are into consideration. Now, each year it's a little different based on what you have in the room.
Got time for 2 more. We'll go over to the left. Jake Trotter.
Yeah, Ryan, speaking of Caleb, we haven't had a safety go in the top 10 of the draft in a decade. Why do you think that's been the case, and then why might Caleb be different? And then also Arthur oversaw some really imposing rushing attacks in the NFL. Yeah, how do you foresee that impacting your offense?
Yep. I don't know the answer to the first question. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see like how many of those guys, the numbers wise, because I don't know the answer to it in the last 10 years, like by position, how many guys actually go in the first round? How many safeties go in the first round? Yeah, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but our expectation is always to have the best in the country. I remember when James was in here, I said, the number one job of the linebacker coach here at Ohio State is to make it linebacker you, and look what he's doing. It's pretty cool. But that's what it's about. Like if you're coaching the quarterbacks, it should be quarterback you. If you're coaching the O-line, it should be O-line you. You're at Ohio State. So yeah, it should be safety you. So we'll keep working on that to get that fixed and maximize that position. But I think Matt's doing a great job, and you're seeing it's building momentum year after year after year, which is great to see. Go to your second question with Arthur, with the run game. Yeah, Arthur is very intelligent. He's been around it before. He knows how to run the football. He sees it that way, but he also really knows how to throw the football well. I mean, he's when you look at where he's had his meetings in all of his career, he's always with the quarterbacks. But he was an offensive lineman at heart, so he knows how it all comes together. And the way that he teaches the quarterbacks too in the run game is he's the run game coordinator, and he's making the checks based on what's going on, and it has to equate numbers. But he really has a great feel for the passing game as well. And it was interesting just listening to him. He's got a great history. He's a great storyteller. And even just like in the last year, working with Aaron Rodgers and his background and all the things that he learned from him, so it's been great to be around him and throw different ideas off of him and him also learn the college game because it is a little bit different. And then I know the guys in that room are learning a lot from him.
All right, last question to Tim May.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you get Julian to run more, whatever, with that emphasis and stuff. But I guess if I have one question, what would you like to see come out of a possible imminent, some people think it's imminent, an executive order from the president to kind of straighten things out for one of another term? What would you like to see be in that executive order if you had been on that panel the other day with the other 100 guys?
Yeah, I think when I think about this, it's you probably heard me say something like this before, is that to me it all starts with the structure, and until we build a structure where we can enforce some of the rules that are in place, we're constantly just putting Band-Aids over issues, and they get ripped off. And college football for a long time has been built, okay, a rule is there, what's the loophole around it? And I think we all know right now that, the rules are not being very well enforced across the country. And my concern, more than anything, is that we're raising a young group of college coaches that, see it that way. That's becoming their normal. And that's not the way that I came up in this game. I mean, we used to, our phone logs and everything had to be exactly right, and the school contacts. And, if the NCAA came in, man, like, you better have your stuff in order because there's going to be hell to pay. And I can't sit here and tell you that's the case anymore. And so, to me, that's the first thing that has to be addressed. And then once we get that addressed, we can deal with everything else. But until then, we're certainly going to try to, or we're going to have a situation where people are going to try to get around the rules. And when people talk about, the NFL and college, I think the biggest difference is, we all know, there's a lot of differences, but the biggest one is we recruit in college, they draft in the NFL. It's a big deal. And so having those things in place are critical in terms of keeping the integrity of the sport. So there's a lot of great ideas. There's a lot of things that came up that are really worth the debate. And I think it's interesting conversation. But to me, that's the number one thing that has to happen, and then we can go from there.
Coach, thank you very much.
All right, guys, thanks. Yep.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was the press conference from Ryan Day today over at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And that's all she wrote. So let's get in a few comments before we call it a day. Thanks for everybody hanging out. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Thank you so much for all of you who jumped on with us at some point during Ryan Day's press conference. I have got my handy dandy notebook. I got all kinds of notes written down here. Interesting stuff when he's comparing the NFL to college football. And he says one of the biggest things, difference is we recruit, you draft in the NFL. Obviously, that is the biggest difference between the NFL and college. Bennett Christian is out for the spring. That was your number one tight end, ladies and gentlemen. Out for the spring. I thought that was interesting. He brought up, when talking about the wide receivers, the two transfers, Kyle and Devin. He says that he called them, they are pros already. Dude, that was not what I anticipated there. Interesting answer for that one. His biggest concern is the running back room coming into spring this year. He said about the offensive line, it's as deep as it's ever been. That should be a good sign. What was I preaching to everybody this winter? You know what? It's all on the offensive line, man. I am going to be their biggest cheerleader. Remember, our DCB put me in a cheerleader outfit, saying I was the offensive line's biggest cheerleader. I am. I believe in this offensive line. The defensive backs looked deep, and he first name he brought up at linebacker was Christian, the transfer from Wisconsin. Didn't anticipate that. So can Christian Alliegro crack the starting lineup? Can he get in as one of the two deep at linebacker in a 4-2-5 set over Riley Pettijohn, who's going into his second year? That is a position battle I didn't necessarily anticipate. I did not think Christian Alliegro would be the type of guy who would come in and turn heads like that, but apparently he is. Interesting. That caught me a little bit off guard. So those were some of the position group battles he brought up. Tim May trying to ask two questions in one by basically saying, getting Julian Sain to run. Again, I think the biggest takeaway from today's press conference was Ryan Day admitting Julian Sain needs to run the football. He needs to level up. He called it leveling up. And he needs to use his legs. And he goes, that would be the X factor for this offense. Julian Sain running the football, using his legs. That was the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, from this press conference. Now, he got a lot of questions about Matt Patricia and Arthur Smith and two NFL guys, and he said, he corrected the question. He said, former NFL head coaches. He emphasized that. These are not just NFL guys. These are former NFL coaches. Yeah, Vader, I did hear that one too about Ian Moore being out this spring as well. I forgot to write that one down. I tell you what, Vader, let's go back and or you can contact your contact. Let's find out who's unavailable for this spring. Let's come up with that list for tonight. Who is not participating in spring ball this year? We know the running backs. He mentioned both Bo Jackson and Isaiah West. Bennett Christian at tight end. He mentioned him. Ian Moore on the offensive line. Is there anybody else not participating in spring football? Let's find that out for tonight, for tonight's show. Interesting stuff. We're going to dive into all of this again tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back tonight at 8 o'clock. We have a very fun show planned for you, live show at 8 o'clock. We will be blessed by the presence of one Brian from Clemson Football Live. He's a great dude. He's a funny guy. It is going to be a good show tonight. Sean, Alex, Brian, and I talking about Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Football Tigers in the ACC tonight at 8 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock in the after show over on Patreon, we are going to dive into everything day one of spring camp. So If you want more of this Ohio State spring football talk, join us over on Patreon for the after show tonight after we have our guest Brian come on and we talk about big picture college football and Clemson football. He was participating because he said he's wearing number 5, not number 20. So he was participating in drills, right? Did I not hear that right? I'm pretty sure he was participating. Could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll admit that. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Appreciate all of you. We'll be back tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, for the OHIO Podcast Roundtable. Don't miss it. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Once again, you've crystallized Ryan Day's thoughts into its essential form. Thank you. I think that's a compliment. I'm taking it as one. It's not that hard. People make it so much harder than what it really is, man. I'm a former basketball coach. I coached high school basketball. My dad was a coach. I grew up around athletics as a little kid. From the time I was able to walk, I was in a dugout. I was on the sideline. I was filling up, Gatorade cups for players at high school from the time I was little, man. I've been around sports. I know how coaches think. I've been in coaches' offices after big wins and after bad losses, man. I know the conversations that go on, and what coach speaks all about. So, yeah, I appreciate that, man. I hope that you all like this. We'll do it again. I'm not sure who's up next. I'm probably Matt Patricia and Arthur Smith will be talking in press conferences. They'll probably do both of them in a press conference following a practice, probably early next week, I'm guessing. But I can't wait for the Arthur Smith one. I cannot wait for that one. But we'll be back tonight, 8 o'clock. We'll see you there. Have a great day, everybody. You all know the drill. Thank you so much. God bless. Go Bucks. OHIO. See you tonight at 8 o'clock.